So today we are reading from the Caitanya Caritamrta, Lila, chapter 17, verses 21 to 33 I will cover today, because they are all very, very tightly linked. So please repeat after me. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Chakra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chakra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda.
Jaya
Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Dvaita Chakra Jaya Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. So please repeat after me. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam. Kalau nāsty eva, nāsty eva, nāsty eva gatir anyathā. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam. Kalau nāsty eva, nāsty eva, nāsty eva gatir anyathā.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam. Kalau nāsty eva, nāsty eva, nāsty eva gatir anyathā.
Prabhis.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare
kevalam.
Kalo nāstya eva, nāstya eva, nāstya eva gatir anyathā.
Kalau nāsty eva, nāsty eva, nāsty eva gatir anyathā.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare nāmaiva kevalam.
Kalo nāstī eva, nāstī eva, nāstī eva gatir anyathā.
Kalau nāsty eva, nāsty eva, nāsty eva gatir anyathā. Hare Rama, the holy name of the Lord.
The holy name of the Lord.
Hare Rama, the holy name of the Lord.
The holy name of the Lord.
Hare Rama, the holy name of the Lord.
The holy name of the Lord.
Eva, certainly.
Certainly.
Kevalam,
Kevalam.
only.
Only.
Kalau,
Kalau.
in the age of Kali.
In the age of Kali.
Nāsty,
Nāsty.
there is none.
There is none.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainly.
Nāsty,
Nāsty.
there is none.
There is none.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainly.
Nāsty,
Nāsty.
there is none.
There is none.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainty.
Gatir, destination.
Destination.
Anyathā,
Anyathā.
otherwise.
Otherwise.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So please repeat after me. In this age of Kali,
In this age of Kali,
there is no other means.
there is no other means.
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 For self-realization,
For self-realization,
then chanting the holy name.
then chanting the holy name.
Chanting the holy name.
Chanting the holy name.
Chanting the holy name of Lord Hari.
Chanting the holy name of Lord Hari.
Okay. So today, this class is from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrta Adi Lila, chapter 17, verses 21 is what's on the board. And based on this verse, the next few verses are being explained. So what I will do today is cover the linked verses to 21, which goes all the way up to 33, including 33. Okay. So this very, very, very famous verse here today that's on the board, please put your hands up those who have heard this verse before. Great. So it's a very famous verse. So this verse is telling us very, very clearly, and I won't speak too much now because the following verses are all going to explain this. But this verse says very clearly, what is the striking thing about this verse is that it is repeating, right? There's repetition in it. So there is 3 times it is saying there is no other means, no other means, no other means. 3 times. And then it is saying 3 times also, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name, chanting the holy name. So this verse is originally from the Brihad Naradiya Purana, and it is quoted here in the Caitanya Caritamrta. So it is very, very clearly telling us that this age of Kali Yuga that we are in, this iron age of Kali, right now, we are in that cycle. We are about 500 years into it. So that this age of Kali Yuga, there is no other way. And that it's only what? Chanting the holy name, that is the only way. And it is saying that we can achieve our destination. And what is that destination? So verse 33, which is up to where I will cover, it is telling us that the ultimate goal of this life is to attain the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, is to attain Krishna Prema, is to attain self-realization. So this is what chanting the holy name does. It allows us to realize who we are. It allows us to see that I am the servant of the Lord. It allows us to see that we are souls. So allows us to see ourselves for souls, which is what we are, and not these bodies or these minds. And then because we can see that we are souls, then we see, well, what am I supposed to be doing as a soul? And the natural inclination is service to the Lord. So we need to be serving as servants of the Lord, and that is called self-realization, simply put. And then after that comes, by the process of serving and serving, we achieve the lotus feet of Krishna. And all of this happens by chanting. So this verse is like, when I saw that this verse was due today, I thought, oh my goodness, okay. I don't really feel qualified to speak on this, but I'm going to give it a shot. So let's go on to verse 22, which is going to further explain. So, this verse is quoted many, many times in many classes, many lectures, because it is very, very important. So in the scriptures there's a rule that if something is said one time, it's of course important. If it is said twice, it's very important. But if it is said 3 times, it is very, very important, extremely important. So we must take it in that mood, that this is really the most important thing that is being told to us in the scriptures, that there's no other way in Kali Yuga except for chanting the holy name of the Lord. So verse 22, you don't have to repeat the Sanskrit after me. Kali kale nāma-rūpa Krishna avatara nāmaiva harer sarva jagat nistara. That in this age of Kali, the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, is the incarnation of Lord Krishna. Simply by chanting the holy name, one associates with the Lord directly. Anyone who does this is certainly delivered. So tomorrow, if you didn't know, there's going to be a 12-hour Mahakirtan. And this is going to start from 9 a.m. go all the way to 9 p.m. So 12 hours of Kirtan. And this is basically the Yuga Dharma in practice. So by chanting together like that, that is the Yuga Dharma. That is what Lord Caitanya came. And for one whole year, he did Kirtan in Srivasa, in the home of his very confidential and close associate. He did Kirtan there with his close associates for one whole year, and thereafter he went out everywhere to as many towns and villages as possible and did Kirtan there with his associates and with all the townspeople. So tomorrow we have the opportunity to be participating in this Kirtan and to be putting these verses to practice. So this verse here is telling us that in this age of Kali, it is the holy name of the Lord, and especially, specifically the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So we are left in no doubt, because there are so many holy names of the Lord. But then in Kali Yuga, we are told that it is especially this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this 16-syllable Mahamantra, which is coming in very, very ancient scriptures. It is being told that this is the Mahamantra for Kali Yuga. This is the mantra. Like different yugas have different mantras. Like there was Om Namo Vasudevaya in another yuga. But for Kali Yuga, it's the Mahamantra. So we must not get confused. We know that in the introduction to the Bhagavatam, that is said that the Lord has many, many names. And all of these names are equally potent. Right? But that in Kali Yuga, which is that in this particular cycle of the earth, right now, this is what is the right thing to be doing, which is this Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And that simply by chanting the holy name, so just by chanting, just by saying this, we associate with the Lord directly. So isn't that wonderful? Like that we being down here on earth, you know, it is really down here if you don't realize it, but it is really down here because there's like so many coverings, and these coverings are very, very thick to get back to the spiritual world, if you look at it from a material point of view. But when we look at it from a spiritual point of view, there is no distance really, because the Lord is in the heart as the super soul, and we are in the heart as the soul. That's who we are. And then to associate with the Lord, so we really crave, like, you know, we think about it. If you wanted to go and see the Prime Minister of Australia, because we are here in Australia, so if you want to go and see the Prime Minister, how many policies and procedures would need to be followed to go and see the Prime Minister? Would be a waiting time, would be so much red tape, all of that. But to associate directly with the Lord, so simple. All we need to do is chant the holy name, and we are associating with the Lord. So this is the greatest benediction that we have in Kali Yuga. It is said that this benediction is so great that even the demigods, who are very, very close servants of Krishna, that these demigods, they are lining up to take birth in Kali Yuga, to take birth in earth, on earth, so that they can just chant, not have to rise the sun at the right time, not have to blow the wind at the right time, just take birth on earth and just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and associate directly with Krishna. So this is how great an opportunity we have. And we are being assured that anybody who chants is certainly going to be delivered. Now, the next few verses will tell us a few guidelines about chanting. I mean, if we're doing something, we've got to do it right. Can you put your hand up, please, just so that I know? If you've ever cooked something, if you've ever cooked in a kitchen. Okay, so we've all had some experience cooking, like one prep at least. So when we cook, we do have to follow the steps, don't we? We have to like turn the flame on first. Second, we've got to put a little bit of oil maybe, or some water maybe in the pan. Third, we've got to, put in a few spices or whatever. It has to be done in order. It has to be done with the right method. So only then will we get the right dish. Otherwise, it will be all not so nice. So in the same way, to chant the holy name of the Lord, there are a few guidelines that we are given. At the same time, we are told there are no hard and fast rules. So there are no hard and fast rules, because this is Kali Yuga and everything is extremely difficult in Kali Yuga. And we have short spans of life. And there are so many disturbances, both internally and externally. So it's simple. It's by the mercy of the Lord, by the mercy of Lord Caitanya, this has been made very, very simple for us. That the holy name has descended from the spiritual world and is allowing us this opportunity to chant and to directly associate with the Lord. And then not only that, you are like associating with the Lord is enough in itself, but what we actually achieve is Krishna Prema, if we do it right. So let's look at verse 23. And before I get into that, I just want to say that, so what the content that I will be covering today will be the guidelines around chanting, which are very simple. So I'll just give it to you first, so that when I get into it, you know what we're going to discuss. It's going to be the 10 offenses against the holy name, and it's going to be the Siksastikam, and it's going to be some practical considerations around chanting. So all of these, like everything that I just said, now actually it probably needs a month or two to really get into, because like the 10 offenses, each of those offenses can cover 2 classes. The Siksastikam has 8 verses, that can cover like 1 week per verse or something. And then there's the practical side of chanting, So all of these, and then there's so many other injunctions about chanting. So if we really get into it, it can take a good month or even more to really cover all this content. But what I'm going to do, because this verse has called for it, is just cover all of this really quickly, and hopefully then we can go back home and think about it and digest it and get into it a little bit more, study it a bit more. So verse 23 is telling us that Dadyalagi harer nāma uttiti nābara jalaloka bhujaite puna evakara. That this verse repeats the word eva, certainly, 3 times for emphasis. And it also 3 times repeats harer nāma, the holy name of the Lord, just to make common people understand. So if we go back to the verse on the board, so there is 3 times harer nāma is repeated, eva is repeated 3 times, and nāsty is repeated 3 times. So the repetition we can see, and it is said that it is done for emphasis. So that means, we can understand how, if we tell somebody something and they don't listen, we've got to tell it quite often more than 3 times. We've got to really just tell it, and if they don't understand, sometimes we have to demonstrate it. So, like I said, 3 times in the scriptures means it is the most important, that we cannot ignore it. We really need to take it seriously. So the purport in this verse is that to emphasize something to an ordinary person, one may repeat it 3 times, just as one may say, you must do this, you must do this, you must do this. Thus, the Govardhana Purana repeatedly emphasizes the chanting of the holy name, so that people may take it seriously and thus free themselves from the clutches of Maya. So don't feel chastised. We are not getting told off here by the repetition. It's actually mercy. It's the Lord's mercy. He is feeling very kindly towards us. He wants us to come back to the spiritual world. He is like a divine father looking out for us and not enjoying seeing us suffering in the material world. So we are being told, do this, do this, do this, only because of the Lord's mercy, so that we can free ourselves. You know, when somebody is suffering a lot, and the most acute thing I can think of is drowning. So when we're drowning, and you know, oftentimes in the scriptures it's described that we're drowning in this material ocean of suffering. When somebody's drowning, there's panic, and that's actually what makes people drown, because they just lose all their energy by panicking and thrashing around, and there's no more energy left and they drown. It's horrible. And there's no breath left to call or yell out. The person conserves their breath so that they actually can live. So, you know, in that acutely distressful moment, if somebody is telling you, grab this, throws out a rope to you, then, you know, you need to just do it. So, this is similar to our condition. We are struggling in this material ocean. We are suffering, we are drowning. But the problem is we don't realize it. For those of us that do realize it, then, you know, this is the rope of the holy name that is being thrown to us. And the Lord is telling us, take it, take it. Not just once, but 3 times. So, we must free ourselves from the clutches of Maya. It is our practical experience in the Krishna conscious movement all over the world that many millions of people are factually coming to the spiritual stage of life simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra regularly, according to the prescribed principles. Therefore, our request to all our students is that they daily chant at least 16 rounds of this Hare Nam Maha Mantra offenselessly, following the regulative principles. Thus, their success will be assured without a doubt. So, this is the place where I bring in these principles, because this is what this purport is talking about. So, who has seen these things before? Sitting there right in the corner over there. And we actually say this every morning, don't we? So, oops, I picked the wrong one up. Okay, so there is the Siksastikam, which is the Siksastikam means instructions. So Lord Caitanya has left us with 8 verses on how to chant. And one of these verses is actually going to be unpacked in the next few verses here. So that's one guideline to follow. Thank you so much. So this one here, the yellow one, the Sri Siksastikam, which we chanted just before class, didn't we? So that's that guideline, and this, the 10 offences against the holy name, is the other guideline. So we are meant to be, this is it, just these two things really. And if we follow these principles around chanting, we are assured of the ultimate destination, which is Krishna Prema, number 1. Number 2, achieving the lotus feet of the Lord. Number 3, being self-realized. The highest of which is Krishna Prema, Krishna's lotus feet. So, very, very quickly, I will go through the 10 offences, because we say it, but oftentimes we say it and we're not really thinking about it. So very quickly I'll do that, because in this purport we are told that it is just by chanting according to the prescribed principles we are guaranteed without a doubt. So, you know, hearing that, personally I feel extremely assured that all I need to do is get down to chanting. And in the Siksastikam we'll hear of something of why we don't get down to chanting. But without a doubt means, okay, if I just do this, I'm gonna make my life successful. So this is how the scriptures are guiding us. Okay, so the 10 offences against the holy name, the first offence is the most serious offence. Is the most serious offence, which is to blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to preaching the glories of the holy name. It's called the mad elephant offence. Did you know something really interesting? You know how we had the Caitanya drama here for Lord Nityananda's appearance, right? Did you guys see the drama? Who saw the drama? So, you know, Caitanya, they were the worst kind of sinners. They did everything. However, they did get Krishna Prema. Lord Chaitanya gave them Krishna Prema. And do you know why Lord Chaitanya actually forgave them? It was because although they had committed every sin under the sun, they had not offended a devotee. They had not blasphemed or offended a devotee. So for this reason only, because that offense wasn't there, they got Krishna Prema, which Krishna Prema nobody can get, not even Mother Sachi can get, as we have discussed in previous classes, if there is an offense to a devotee. So that, no matter how many years we chant for, if we are blaspheming, criticizing devotees, we will not get success. So that is the most important offense to avoid. And although it is not stated in the 10th offense, it is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. So actually, according to Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if we are inattentive while chanting, that is the root of all the other offenses. So that is extremely important that when we chant, we actually hear. We just have to listen to it, that's all. Just bring our mind back to the sound every time. So the 10 offenses, number 2 is to consider the names of demigods like to be equal to or independent of Krishna. Number 3, to disobey the order of the spiritual master. Number 4, to blaspheme the Vedic literatures. Number 5, to consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be an imagination. And number 6, to give some mundane interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. So sometimes, number 6 can slide in very insidiously. For example, if we are doing chanting in a group, doing transcendental meditation, we can say things like, chanting is aligning your left brain and your right brain. Chanting is aligning all these different things, all your neurons and all of that, the particles are aligning just right. So this is actually giving some mundane interpretation on the holy name. So we have to be really careful. The explanation we need to give is that it is allowing you self-realization, that you are going to see who you are by chanting. And we just have to say exactly what is in the scriptures. Very, very careful, because if we make offenses, then we won't achieve this goal. And that's what we are on earth for in these human bodies. So we need to be like, Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, he's got an Insta account. One thing I just was flicking through, and on his Insta account, one of his little videos, he said, make it count. He works out a lot. He's got the biggest muscles in the world, I think. Anyway, he said in one of his little videos, make it count. So I took that on, and what I got from that was, if I'm doing something, I've got to make it count. Don't just do it, don't just waste your time. Time is limited, our life is short. We need to make the most of it. So, make it count when we are sitting down for a japa period, basically. Okay, number 7 is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting, thinking that I'm going to just do this, I'll chant, it's going to wash it away. No, it's an offense. Number 8, to consider the chanting of Hare Krishna to be just a karma kanda, fruitive activity. Number 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name, because if we do that, we actually can lose our faith. Number 10, to not have complete faith in chanting the holy name, and to maintain material attachment, even after understanding so many instructions. Okay, so those are the 10 offenses, and like I said, we can spend days and days talking about that, but I just wanted to say that these are the principles that have been referred to in chanting. And now the Siksastikam, this is the positive instruction that we have been given in chanting the holy names. And if we want to make our life successful and chant successfully, these are the 2 guidelines we need to be following. Just the 10 offenses and the Siksastikam. So in the Siksastikam, in the next few verses up to 33, this particular verse is going to get unpacked, which is the third verse on the Siksastikam. So, which is actually going to I will come across that. So, but I will say it now. So, this verse here is telling us that we need to chant humbly, in a humble state of mind. We need to consider ourselves quite low, like a straw in the street. You can't get lower than that. and that we should be very tolerant, just like a tree. We shouldn't have any false prestige. That, oh, I'm got lots of money, got a big car, all of those things. False prestige. At the end of the day, our real wealth is service and the holy name. And that we should be ready to offer respect to others, all respect to others. And then in this state of mind, we can actually chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So out of the Siksastikam, this is the main guideline that we are meant to be following. How to chant, the mood to chant. Because, how often do we not feel like chanting? We know we've got to do at least 16 rounds every day, but quite often we just don't feel like chanting. It becomes a chore, it's difficult to pick up our beats. And then we can self-examine. And we can think, why don't I feel like chanting? And the main reason would be that we don't have that mood. We don't have the right mood. And what's the mood meant to be? Let's go back to this verse. That's the mood that we are meant to have. Humble, tolerant, respectful of others, no false prestige. And in this state of mind, we can just chant constantly. So this is what we are being told. Okay. So, verse 24, the use of the word kevalam. Kevala shabde puranapi nishchaya karana jnana yoga tapa karma adi nivarana. The use of the word kevalam, only. And keval is actually a pretty common name used in the Vedic tradition, keval. So the use of the word kevala, only, which means only, prohibits all other processes such as cultivation of knowledge, practice of mystic yoga, performance of austerities and fruitive activities, which is very clearly telling us that all we really need to do is just chant, like we've been told already. There's no other need to do other things like cultivate knowledge. Like many people might think, well, I haven't read the Bhagavatam completely yet, and we don't really need to cultivate knowledge, because by chanting, everything comes automatically. Even all the good qualities, they just come automatically. It is said that even all the good qualities present in the demigods, all of that just manifests automatically in the body of a person who is chanting the holy names of the Lord. So, the purpose of this verse is that our Krishna consciousness movement stresses the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra only, whereas those who do not know the secret of success for this age of Kali unnecessarily indulge in the cultivation of knowledge, the practice of mystic yoga, or the performance of fruitive activities or useless austerities. They are simply wasting their time and misleading their followers. When we point this out very plainly to an audience, members of opposing groups become angry at us. But according to the injunctions of the Shastras, we cannot make compromises with these so-called jnanis, yogis, karmis and tapasvis. When they say they are as good as we must say that only we are good and that they are not good. That this is not our obstinacy, it is the injunction of the Shastra. We must not deviate from the injunctions of the Shastra. This is confirmed in the next verse of Caitanya Caritamrta. So basically we are being told there's no other way, there's no other way, there's no other way. Cultivating knowledge, austerities, fruitive activities, all of those is just a waste of time. Just a waste of time. Just need to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. And the only way of doing that, the only way is chanting the holy name of the Lord. So verse 25, anyathā māna-dena nāhika nishtara nahi etine eva kara. This verse clearly states that anyone who accepts any other path cannot be delivered. This is the reason for the triple repetition, nothing else, nothing else, nothing else, which emphasizes the real process of self-realization. Okay, let's see who's been listening. What is the real process of self-realization? Yes, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Thank you very much. So that is the real process of self-realization. All the other processes which we can vary because they look attractive, such as digging wells, opening up schools, gaining all the knowledge in the world, studying all the knowledge in the world, all of that are simply useless austerities, useless time waste, we are being told. Okay, so verse 26. tṛṇād nijahana sadā nāma amāninā anyathā. To chant the holy name always, one should be humbler than the grass in the street and devoid of all desire for personal honor, but one should offer others all respectful obeisances. So this is what I just talked on briefly earlier, that we need to be humble, humbler than the grass in the street, and that's as low as, we can't go lower than the ground. And we shouldn't be desirous of personal name or fame, but we need to offer others respectful obeisances. Now, if we think of Raghunath Das Goswami, he was sitting on the bank of Radhakund. It's described that he was paying all the Vaishnavas like so many obeisances a day. Like, was it 200 or 2,000 obeisances a day? He was paying the Vaishnavas every day. That was part of his austerity, his sadhana. So, we can learn from the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan by their example that this is the mood that we are meant to have, and that by doing this, only then can we chant constantly and effectively. Text 27. Taror sahiṣṇunā Vaishnava karive bhaktasana tane kake kichuna padive. A devotee engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord should practice forbearance like that of a tree. Even if rebuked or chastised, he should not say anything to others to retaliate. So here is where the tolerance part comes in, and tolerance can be harder than humility to practice. So if you think of somebody attacking you, like physically or verbally, the first thing that comes is defense, because that's quite intrinsic to a living entity. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Though that's one of the quite intrinsic things that a living entity does. Any species, we defend ourselves to survive. But here we are being told that if we are being attacked verbally, if we are being chastised or rebuked, we shouldn't say anything to retaliate. So now, this verse can really be misinterpreted in so many ways. This is something that, again, like I said, I'm just going to give you a nutshell to that, because we can spend days and seminars on this topic. But this is the mood that we need to cultivate, tolerance. That the dividing line is that if I am personally being attacked, criticized or blasphemed personally, that I don't say a word to defend myself. But if another devotee is getting blasphemed, I act like fire. That is what the scriptures say. So we should not be tolerating the blasphemy of another devotee. In fact, we need to defend them. But if I personally am getting, like somebody says, oh, Kishori, you talk too much. Okay, I'm not going to say anything to defend myself, basically. That's the mood we need to have. So, and I'm not talking about tolerating abuse here. So that is something that we need to, discuss further at another class maybe. But to have the right mood basically means to be tolerant, to be as tolerant as a tree. Text 28. Katileha taruyena kichuna bolaya sukhaya mareta pujalana mukaya. For even if one cuts a tree, it never protests, nor even if it is drying up and dying does it ask anyone for water. This practice of forbearance, tṛṇād su-nīcena, is very difficult. But when one actually engages in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, the quality of forbearance automatically develops. A person advanced in spiritual consciousness through the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra need not practice to develop it separately. For a devotee develops all good qualities simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra regularly. One little personal example. So I was going to India for the first time many years ago, and I was going on pilgrimage, and I was thinking, what do I need to do to prepare myself apart from packing my bag? What mood do I need to be in? All of that. And one senior devotee told me, just chant the holy name of the Lord. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to sleep on the floor for a month beforehand. You don't need to eat only a particular kind of food before us. No unnecessary austerities. Just chant the holy name of the Lord. That will be the right mood. Just chant as purely as you can. So that's all we need to do. This tolerance, how many of us can tolerate being attacked? It's very, very hard. That's the hardest thing to actually develop. But when we chant the holy name of the Lord, it automatically comes. We don't have to do anything else to develop tolerance. So isn't that lovely? All we do is chant the holy name of the Lord. Verse 29. Amāninā vaishnavakare kichuna magiva ayachita vritti kimvasaka pula kaiva. Thus a Vaishnava should not ask anything from anyone else. If someone gives him something without being asked, he should accept it, but if nothing comes, a Vaishnava should be satisfied to eat whatever vegetables and fruits are easily available. So now, I've talked about, how to chant. There is the guidelines around it, which is the 10 offenses and the Siksastikam. Now we are coming down to the practical means of how to chant, because in a day there's only 24 hours. Now in the 24 hours, 8 of those hours we are working, or maybe even 8 to 12 hours we are working. Then some other hours we are looking after our body, eating, sleeping, all of those things. So where is the time to chant? So we are being given some practical guidance here, that don't over-endeavor. So if we over-endeavor, if we work too many long hours, that's an over-endeavor. We need to just make it a priority, give most time to our spiritual lives, because that is actually the importance. So how we can actually finish our 16 rounds minimum every day, more if possible. How can we finish our 16 rounds every day is we give it priority. We do it first. We do it early on, and then it's done. And the reason to do it early is also because of Brahma-muhurat and the mode of goodness, all of the nice things that are there in the morning. So also we shouldn't over-endeavor, because by doing that we are wasting our precious human energy, our precious time. And we should just accept whatever comes our way. We shouldn't ask for anything, but if something comes our way, we should just be satisfied to eat whatever is easily available. Not over-endeavor, not let the tongue drag us to that restaurant over there because we feel like it today. That's just wasting time. Need to just chant and not be dictated to by our senses. Text 30. Sadā nāma laiva yatha labete santosha aite achara kare bhakti dharma posha. One should strictly follow the principle of always chanting the holy name, and one should be satisfied with whatever he gets easily. Such devotional behavior solidly maintains one's devotional service. Solidly means day after day after day after day, every day. That's how we make spiritual progress, by chanting our 16 rounds every day. So to do this, if we just chant, what we have been told again in these verses, just don't waste your time over endeavoring to just get whatever is easily available, easily and quickly, so that we can conserve our time and use it to chant the holy names of the Lord effectively. Now we are going to talk on verse 31. tṛṇād su-nīcena taror sahiṣṇunā amāninā māna-dena Caitanya sadā hariḥ. This is verse 3 of the Sri Siksastikam, which we recite every morning. So this verse is what we all know. One who thinks himself lower than the grass, who is more tolerant than a tree, and who does not expect personal honor, yet is always prepared to give all respect to others, can very easily always chant the holy name of the Lord. The grass is especially mentioned in this verse because everyone tramples upon it, yet the grass never protests. This example indicates that a spiritual master or leader should not be proud of his position, always being humbler than an ordinary common man. He should go on preaching the cult of Caitanya Mahaprabhu by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So this verse is very, very important, and actually it is so important that we are told in this next verse what to do about it. So the next verse is Urdhva bahu karikari shuna sarvaloka namashutre ganti parakante shloka. That raising my hands I declare, everyone please hear me, string this verse on the thread of the holy name and wear it on your neck for continuous remembrance. That this verse, tṛṇād su-nīcena, that this verse we need to make it like a garland and put it around our neck, wear it like a kantimala. That when we string this verse on the thread of the holy name and we wear it around our neck for continuous remembrance. Why we are being told to do that? To wear this verse like a garland or like a kantimala, like our neck beads. We are being told to wear this verse, tṛṇād su-nīcena, taror sahiṣṇunā, amāninā, māna-dena, kīrtanīyaḥ, sadā, hariḥ. Wear this verse like a neck bead around your neck, like this string of neck beads around your neck. The string is the holy name. Is the holy name, so that's the string of it. And this verse is the beads resting on that string. And you wear it around your neck so that you can always remember the mood, so that you can always chant. This is what we are being told. When chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, in the beginning one may commit many offenses which are called nāmaiva and nāma. In this stage there is no possibility of achieving perfect love of Krishna by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Therefore, one must chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra according to the principles of the above verse, tṛṇād su-nīcena, taror sahiṣṇunā. One should note in this connection that chanting involves the activities of the upper and lower lips as well as the tongue. All three must be engaged in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. The words Hare Krishna should be very distinctly pronounced and heard. Sometimes one mechanically produces a hissing sound instead of chanting with the proper pronunciation with the help of the lips and tongue. Chanting is very simple, but one must practice it seriously. Therefore, the author of Caitanya Caritamrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, advises everyone to keep this verse always strung about his neck. So, just speaking a little bit on this, and then moving on to the last verse for today's class. So, I think I know some people who have actually tattooed this verse around their neck. I've seen some pictures of some devotees who've actually got a tattoo of this verse around their neck. And that's okay, but it's not for external show. It's actually how much internalization has there been of this verse, and is the mood actually there. So in this mood we can chant all the time. The other practical thing that we are being told is that when we chant, we actually need to use the upper lip, the lower lip, and the tongue. Because quite often people just go, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. You see, upper lip, lower lip not moving, the hissing sound is there, and it's just mechanical. So, the practical injunctions are there also. And this is the beauty of hearing from experienced, advanced devotees like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj, who's been practicing. So, when we chant, this practical consideration needs to be there, that we actually pronounce it. We use our tongue, we use our lips, we say it loudly enough so that we can hear, that we sit properly also, because when we slouch over, our lungs don't get enough oxygen and we fall asleep while we are chanting. So we kind of need a little something under our bottom, so that the back is straight, so that the chest is open, so that we can take deep breaths while we are chanting, so that the brain gets enough oxygen and we don't fall asleep. So all these practical things need to be there while we are chanting. And that we are told it's very simple, but we must do it seriously. So then we will be successful. And the last verse for today, Govardhana karai shloka charana abhyasha parveta Shri Krishna charana. One must strictly follow the principles given by Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu in this verse, which is this verse, tṛṇād su-nīcena. If one simply follows in the footsteps of Lord Caitanya and the 6 Goswamis, certainly he will achieve the ultimate goal of life, the lotus feet of Shri Krishna. Ki Jai. So, if we chant successfully, which we can do, we have been given all the tools, we can do it. We've got the lips, we've got the tongue, we've got the hands to hold our beat, we just need to use it. We've got the ears to hear, and we just follow the guidelines of the 10 offenses, the Siksastikam, and the practical things that we discussed. we can actually be successful. And it's very, very simple, simple for the simple in Kali-yuga. And we can achieve this highest goal of life, which is achieving the lotus feet of Sri Krishna Prema, and make our life successful. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Prasadam is being served, but if anybody has any questions or comments or anything they'd like to discuss, you're welcome.
Thank you for the teaching, it's great.
Thank you. Jai Shri Prabhupada, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Caitanya Caritamrta ki Jai, Gaur Premanand